With the new X series of scratch-offs from the New York Lottery, you can multiply your winnings up to 100 times. The X series from the New York Lottery. It's a better way to multiply. You must be 18 years or older to purchase. Please play responsibly. On this week's episode of Bills Pod Squad, I'm joined by corner Dane Jackson to talk about his rookie season with the Bills, training with three-time Defensive Player of the Year Aaron Donald, being a new dad, his love for cooking, and his unique come-up in football that led him to playing for one high school football team while attending another high school for school. All that and more as we get started on Bills Pod Squad right now. Welcome into this week's episode of Bills Pod Squad presented by the New York Lottery. Maddy Glab here is your host. I hope everyone is doing lovely as we inch closer to the NFL draft. Anything to get your mind off of this cold weather in Buffalo. If that's where you're tuning in from, there's snow on the ground today. I'm not excited about it either, but I'm so pumped to welcome this week's guest. He's heading into his second season as a Buffalo Bill. It's cornerback Dane Jackson. Dane, I feel like I need like an air horn, like to welcome you into the podcast. But thank you so much for taking the time to be on. I love getting to talk to players, especially in the off season when it's a little bit more chill and when, you know, you guys are a little bit more relaxed, your guard may be down a little bit more because it's not like you're preparing for this opponent on Sunday. So thanks so much for taking the time. I'm excited to get to talk to you a little bit more.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Maddy.
So I want to start off with a little bit of rapid fire questions for you because you're a newer Buffalo Bill. I feel like a lot of people, especially with this season, right? A lot of people didn't get to see you up close and in person, whether it was training camp or going to Buffalo Bills games. You're newer to this team and I don't know a lot about you either based on research. I feel like I know a little bit more, but I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more too. So let's start off with, you know, it's the off season. You guys are able to relax, able to do things that you haven't been doing during the NFL season. So what's your favorite way to relax in the off season? What have you been up to? What do you do for fun right now?
Honestly, the thing I do the most for fun right now is just hang out with my baby boy and my girlfriend, my family. You know, we just chill, spend our time together, and you know, he gives us a run for our money. You know, he's so active now, so it's just like, you know, just playing around and seeing him active that's been the best thing for me since the off season started. You know, I've been doing, you know, other stuff, like I've took a few vacations and stuff too as well, but you know, I think that's been the highlight of my off season so far for sure.
Yeah, time with family is always important. It's something that I really cherish too. I'm from Chicago, so I was able to go home after the season. I mean, we both lived such different lives during the season with all the COVID protocols in place, the daily testing. It's not like you or I could go home quick on Christmas or invite a bunch of family up and celebrate holidays together or just see our family. So I totally get that. And to see your son growing up. I know before we started recording, you said he's 8 months old, Dane Jr. So is Dane Jr. walking yet, or is he kind of just crawling, getting into everything right now?
Yeah, he's not walking yet. At first he was starting his little military crawl. Now he's all up, all fours now. So it's been exciting. He's actually pulling himself up now on like the couch and stuff too. So I think he's about ready to walk, but it's taking time.
Soon enough, just know when they start walking, your eyes have to be like your head has to be on a swivel because you never know, especially if you're an NFL player. This kid is bound to have some athleticism in him, so he'll be ready to start catching some footballs soon enough.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, next question. How would you describe your personality?
I would say I'm pretty calm, laid back. You know, I just like to chill, you know, catch a good vibe, you know, never trying to do, you know, too much. But I would say that's kind of my off the field personality, but like on the field, I'm more energetic. You know, it's like two different personalities, if you would say. You know, it's like a playground out there, just having fun, you know, celebrating with your teammates and stuff like that.
How does your personality fit into the corner room? I mean, we know that Tre probably dominates that room based on his personality, but how do you fit in with some of the other guys and maybe just being in a room with someone as vivacious and lively as Tre White is?
I mean, you could definitely feed off his energy like every day. Like even if you're not having the best day, like you'll come in the building and you'll hear Tre White down the hall or down the field or whatever, and then it just puts it in perspective. Like just bring your energy up. But as far as the other guys, like we're all like a tight knit group. We're pretty chill. Everybody just like the. There's not too many rah-rah guys. We just like to bond together, and when we're all doing that, it's pretty fun.
I love that. Did you feel that when you played college football as well, or is this a different experience playing for a team like the Buffalo Bills, where it is a different type of family atmosphere?
I feel like in the DB room, like it was pretty similar at Pitt because we were all experienced group, for the most part, and the guys we were bringing in were guys that can gravitate towards us, the older guys. So I feel like it's just reversed now that I'm with the Bills. I'm the younger guy, and the older guys, they're all a pretty tight knit group, and just chill. And like me coming in it wasn't like that hard of a transition for the room.
That's really cool. I can't imagine. I mean, I've played on sports teams too, but nothing collegiately or professionally. I can't imagine going from college football into an NFL team with some high caliber talent in your room. And, day one, day two, just trying to figure things out, not trying to like rock the boat too much or be like, hey, I'm Dane Jackson and I'm here. You're trying to get a feel for the room, trying to see where you can insert yourself. And so I bet at first it's nerve wracking, but it's really nice to know that, that group is like a family, because that's what we get the sense of just covering you guys, and what the fans get a sense of is that, you guys are really close and tight knit. And we were even able to see that through this weird pandemic year, which was awesome. When it comes to food, what is your favorite food?
Well, I can't even lie, it was shrimp, but like I've been getting away from it for a while now. So I have to go with salmon or trout.
Okay.
But see, I'm a pretty big seafood guy, but I have been getting away from it a little lately, but salmon and trout is definitely my go-to.
When did you start eating a lot of seafood? I feel like seafood, not that you're super young or anything, but sometimes when you're a young kid, it's like, ew, fish, I don't want to eat any of this, shrimp, salmon. So were you someone who has always really liked seafood?
Yeah, I feel like I always really liked seafood because of how much I was growing up, like how much my mom cooked. Like she never tried to make the same thing, but that's always been like seafood has always been like one of my favorites.
So what you're saying is we all need to go to Miss Jackson's house and have some of her food that she cooked. If she didn't cook the same, that sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've been pretty spoiled with it. I will admit that.
So this question's a little bit off the wall, but if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. I will probably say teleport.
Why would you want to teleport?
I would probably say teleporting because I'm starting to drive so much that it's like I don't even feel like driving no more. So at the snap of a finger, I just want to be where I'm at, and then when I'm ready, just be right back at home.
I totally feel that. Sometimes I live like 30 minutes away from the stadium. And so some days driving into the stadium, I'm like, oh, I just wish I could like snap my finger and be here and not have to do the 30-minute drive in. But 30 minutes isn't a lot compared to, I guess, LA traffic and NYC traffic that people sit in every day.
Oh, so yeah.
We have it kind of good in Buffalo, I guess.
Right.
All right. We've got two more left. What is your favorite artist? What do you listen to? What do you turn on when you're listening to music?
My favorite artist, that's a hard one, but since he just dropped the album, I'll say Rod Wave right now.
Okay.
Just because, I can relate to his music a lot. A lot of people don't like him because he does a lot of sad music. I can't really relate to most of the sad part, but, just the background and just the culture that he grew up in, I can relate to that.
I want to say that Taron Johnson also really likes Rod Wave. You may know better than me, but when we had him on, I did an interview with him. I think he said the same thing, that he really likes Rod Wave. And he was like, I'm not into all that sad music, but I just like the vibes.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's just a cool vibe. And if you could relate, it makes it even better.
Yeah, I get that. All right, last one. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
One thing that people don't know about me is that I can cook.
Ooh.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean,
What's your specialty?
I'm not the best cook, but the other night I just made some Brussels sprouts, a baked potato. I put it in the microwave first, and then I put it in the oven with the cheese and the butter. And I made some lamb chops for the first time.
Whoa.
I've had some pretty good lamb chops at restaurants, so I didn't know how I was going to do, but I think I did a pretty good job.
Lamb chops is like next level. Like I'm like chicken,
Yeah.
steak, salmon. Okay, I can do that. But I would
Yeah.
never go to the grocery store and be like, lamb chops, I'm going to
Yeah.
tackle that tonight. I would have to do a lot of reading before I
Right.
did that.
Right. I just tried it, honestly. That was my first time making them, but I've, eating the same meats here and there. So try to switch it up.
That's awesome. There's some good cooks on the Buffalo Bills. John Feliciano is one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
When life is back to normal, you guys need to have, and I'm sure you will, a big backyard barbecue or something where everybody can show off their talents, because I feel like that would be just really one great meal. But thanks for answering those off the wall rapid fire questions. Great way to get into the conversation. You posted some videos, or there were some videos out there on the internet of you training with a really amazing football player in the NFL, Aaron Donald, who also went to Pitt. How did you train with him? When did this start? I mean, I saw you guys flipping tires, which those tires don't look easy to flip. And Aaron Donald was flipping them easily, but you were flipping them as easily as he was. So how did this all happen and come together?
Well, our trainer, Dwayne Brown, he has this business 2 tenths that he's been having for a long time. And when I was younger, I've went with him here and there, but Aaron Donald, he's been like consistent since D Brown probably started. So, just that connection from back then, we have like this training with the same guy, and then us both going to Pitt and us both being training at Pitt. And we're both here, in the offseason, he's always here. I've been seeing him since I was here at Pitt. He would come back and train at Pitt and work out and be in the locker room right with us, like he wasn't even in the NFL, and he treated us like that. So, just building those relationships over the year. And then actually now that I'm in the NFL and we have like some like the same type of schedule, we're able to work out together.
I always think that's super interesting, how guys pick their off-season trainers, whether it's based on a relationship or a prior existing relationship, or based on other players who are older than them, who they, let them know, hey, I train with this guy, he's really good. I worked at Stanford for a year, and all the Stanford players really loved their strength coach, and all the NFL guys would come back to Stanford, not all of them, but a good amount of them would come back in the off season, and you'd see Andrew Luck walking around Stanford in the off season. And I was fresh out of college, like, oh my gosh, Andrew Luck is back here to train for the next NFL season. So how did you pick your trainer? Was it something similar like that? You were at Pitt, and during the off season, which was during your spring ball, guys would come back and start training with guys around Pitt?
Oh yeah. So like before the past strength staff that was at Pitt, like I was there in 2015, and that was their first year as well. So like the older guys, when I was a freshman, they will always come back. They would be in there working out with us, like doing our workouts, because it was like, like a college workout. I feel like there's like, if you in the right program, there's nothing really like a college workout. So coming back, they would always come back and participate and do the same workouts with us. But me, like, being in the NFL now, I really don't like. I have family in Pittsburgh, and like I like personally, like if I have a plan and something in stone, like I can get it done. With not by myself, like obviously trainers and stuff, but the small stuff like I can handle on my own. So just finding like the right guys to be around, like Aaron Donald, seeing him come back, and then seeing how well it worked for him, like being home and not really going to all these different facilities, training and stuff like that. And it just kind of gave me perspective that I can do the same.
Yeah, that's really cool. Has he given you any advice or anything like that? Have you guys had any conversations that, resonate with you that you'll take with you into this season?
I mean, honestly, just being around him, like you don't really have to, he doesn't really say much, the way he works and the way he carries himself, just seeing it, like if he's a 3-4 time defensive player of the year. Like if him just being around him doesn't motivate you, then I mean, I don't know what else to say. So he doesn't really have to say much. He's a quiet, humble guy too as well. So we talk here and there, but when we're together, it's mostly all work.
Yeah, you're like, this is a work of art. This is what I need to be. This is what I need to follow. I'll just watch you and do whatever you do, even if you don't play my position.
Yeah.
So since we're in the off season, I know you said you like to spend time with your girlfriend and your son, Dane Jr. What has it been like to be a dad and to have a kid? You said during training camp and you got to go and watch him be born and come back to training camp, which is so awesome that our coaching staff understands that stuff and puts family first in a lot of different ways. But what have you learned in your child's, first 8 months of life?
Well, it's a continued growth, like me, like Derek was just talking about, it's just always something like that he's learning new, or I just feel like we're growing together, honestly. Like I'm learning something new about him every day and he's learning something new about me. Like at first it was, I would have him and he would always want his mom. Now is his mom would have him and he will always want me. So now that makes me feel a little better. And I think he said Dada the other day. So that that makes me feel a little better inside too. But, it's just a continued growth, happy moments, long nights. But, for the most part, I'm super blessed to have him as my son.
Is there something that you think you've learned since being a dad that you didn't realize before he was in your life?
I've always said like I don't know how my dad, he has a lot of kids, but I'm like, dang man, I don't know how you do it. But just being a dad now and it's like adjusting. I don't have as many kids as him, but I only have one. But just being a dad, just adjusting to those, the lifestyle of it. Less time you get to yourself and more time you need for him. Just all those type of things. Like it's not easy in no way, but if you cherish those moments, I think it's great.
And to be fresh in the NFL, heading into your second season with, a new child, I think I commend you. I mean, there's some time management skills that go into, I'm going to commit this much time to football. And then when I come home, I'm going to commit this much time to my son, Dane Jr. So props to you. And I'm sure you're taking things that you learn at home into your time management skills with the Buffalo Bills, because it's not easy what any of you do. Oops, did we lose you? There you are. No, you're good. I was gonna say it's not easy at what any of you do in the NFL. A lot of work is required. A lot of time is required, especially during this year. It was a weird year to be a rookie in the NFL, going through a season during a pandemic, but it didn't look like you let that take advantage or take hold of you in any type of way, because when you did get time on the field in the 5 games that you played in, you had an interceptions, you had 5 passes defense to fumble recovery. Like you made a splash when you were on the field, and you look at being a 7th round pick. And I know a lot of players do get overlooked, and being a 7th round pick shouldn't be your label by any means, but Bills Mafia and I and people who cover the team were like, wow, this kid's good. He's got a future ahead of him. And I think we even saw that also in training camp, just watching you go up against the amazing wide receivers that we have on this team. So how do you think your rookie season went? What did you learn in that first season?
Honestly, I wouldn't change anything about my rookie season. Like coming in, obviously you want to play right away and you want to be out there contributing, but the way it happened, it was just like, I felt like it was meant to be, just me coming in every day with the same mindset, head down, grinding, not really worried about only things I can control, and then learning from the other guys. I may have thought I was ready, back when I first came in, but those guys, the way they play at a high level, watching those guys in our room, even the whole team really, but watching those specific guys in our room and the way they carry themselves off the field and play at a high level on the field, it's like you want to mold yourself to be like, the collective group that we have, so I honestly wouldn't change a thing about my rookie season. I think, everything how it played out, I think it happened the right way.
And that's awesome to have that type of thought process on your rookie season. Even if you weren't a starter, which it's hard to be a starter in your first year in the NFL, regardless, especially if you're walking onto a team that is set to have a really great season and has Tre'Davious White, an all-pro corner. And, you have this past year, you had Josh Norman, you had Levi Wallace, you had Dane Johnson, you had Saran Neal. I know Cam Lewis got injured, but those are some great talents to play with. So what do you learn from a guy like Tre'Davious White in your first season with him and getting to play alongside with him? Because I would imagine you can get so much from a guy like him, because even people like Stephon Diggs are like, I learned something from Tre'Davious White all the time, even though we play on opposite sides of the ball.
Right. Oh, you like you said, you could learn so much from him. And it's crazy because when I wasn't with the Bills yet, I got drafted, but I didn't be around the guys. It's like I didn't know he was going to be like how he is. I thought he wasn't really going to mess with the young guys and stuff like that. But he's an open book. Like, he's willing to teach you. He's willing to, he even wants to learn from you sometimes. But just being around him and just seeing the techniques he does, like, he takes every rep serious. It's never like, I'm gonna just chill on this rep. And he's so passionate about what he does on the field. Like, if someone catches a ball on him, he's livid. He wants to go again. He wants that rep back. So this seeing the way he carries himself, it's like, that it's possible.
And Tre was a late first round pick, but when you look at the group of corners as a whole with what is in the cornerback room, at least this season, I mean, you're playing alongside corners who are selected in the 4th round or later besides Tre. So it's not like you have a room that's full of dudes who are drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. So what's it also like to play alongside a player like Levi Wallace, who always gets recognized for the hard work he puts in, knowing his story, how he was an undrafted rookie free agent, walked on to Alabama, earned a scholarship. I mean, you talk about hard work, and Levi does that all the time and has earned a starting job multiple seasons with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Well, it's a great experience learning from a guy like Levi. Like, when I first got drafted, he was one of the first guys to reach out to me. And like, from that moment, I knew what type of guy he was. He wants to, take the young guys in. He wants to help them out as any way he can, on the field, off the field. He wants to lead by example. When he's out there, he doesn't want to put anything bad out there. So maybe one of the young guys say, that's cool to do, or something like that. He's the, definition of hard work to me. I've seen him do a lot, throughout the season. I've seen him put the time in, and I've seen him put the work in. And that's why, if people don't know out there, that's why he's been rewarded with that starting job.
Did you have a moment where it was like, okay, I'm now in the NFL? Some people have that wake up moment where they get hit hard, or they get beat on a pass, or they're going up against someone in practice and you're like, whoa, this is a different type of league. Did you have a moment like that?
I wouldn't say like a different type of league, but I did have a moment where I was like, dang, this is the NFL, where I got my first start against the Jets, and I ran out. In college, I had a routine where I go out, do a lap, and, I do my stretching routine and stuff. And I didn't know, because I've never played in an NFL game, so I didn't know if I should keep the same routine or not. So when I'm running out the tunnel, I'm like, well, I'm just going to take a lap. So I took a lap, and I'm just looking at the stadium like, man, this is crazy. I'm really here. There's no fans in there, but just like the stadium's so big, you could still feel, in my opinion, the NFL atmosphere. So that was one of my best moments, of the 2020 season.
And hopefully this year the stadiums can be full of Buffalo Bills fans, because it is like next level experience. I worked for the University of Tennessee for 4 years before coming to the Bills, and they fit over 100,000 people in their stadium. And coming to Buffalo, where there's not 100,000 people in the stadium, I mean, you still get that same experience because the people are screaming their heads off, which is amazing. Like, I had goosebumps on my first home game, knowing how loud it was and just seeing the passion of the fans. I mean, it makes you probably want to play even harder, having people like that behind you, supporting you. So I cannot wait till that happens next season. Just knowing the season that you guys had and knowing that you made it to the AFC Championship game, like it's going to be on another level for this year. And I can't wait. But when you look at your story and how you got into the NFL and your high school football story, really, you know, bouncing around to different high school football teams and attending classes at one high school and playing football at another high school. I mean, that was not easy for you at the age that you were at, you know, being a teenager and having to do these things, that there's a big responsibility in doing that. And I'm sure a lot of growing up happened over those couple years. I looked at your Instagram and under your name, you have the phrase, never forget where you came from. What does that mean to you? And how do you live that out every single day?
That means so much to me. Like it's actually in my Twitter bio and my Instagram bio because like I'm originally from the inner city of Pittsburgh, you know, a small community called Greenway, and it's like literally one street. And it's a hill, it goes up and down. But like a lot of people don't know that I'm from there because when I was a freshman in high school, I moved to Coriopolis just to get out of the city. My mom didn't want me in the city no more. And, you know, she thought it would be a better opportunity for me, which it ended up being a great opportunity for me because I feel like if I wouldn't have made that move, I wouldn't be here today, honestly. But, you know, I'm originally from the inner city of Pittsburgh in a small community called Greenway. And like that really molded me to who I am today. So I can never forget, you know, what made me the man I am today. And then, like you said, bouncing around from high school to high school. When I moved out to Coriopolis, I was at Cornell, and after my freshman year, we didn't have a team anymore, so we had to go play for Quaker Valley. And just adapting to those different cultures because the inner city of Pittsburgh, I promise you, is 10 times different than Coriopolis. So just bouncing around from those different environments made me mature and made me the man I am today.
That is such a crazy story. I mean, going from inner city to then going to playing for or going into the suburbs and meeting people who live in the suburbs. I mean, a lot of the times it is two different stories. You're playing with, or two different worlds. You're playing with people who don't look like you. You're playing with people who don't have the same background, don't have the same experiences as you. So that makes it harder for you to build those relationships or feel accepted. So there's a lot of work that it probably took outside of just playing your position in high school football to get to a point where you felt comfortable. I mean, how did you experience some of that? Is that correct? In the fact that it was kind of like a culture shock to be playing for a different school in a completely different area than where you were raised?
It was you explained it to a T. Like that culture shock, that's to a T. I'm not saying every place is bad or every place is good, but you know, I had to adapt to a lot growing up in Greenway. Whereas when I got to Coriopolis, it just seemed like it was like just chill, you know, relax. I don't got to worry about nothing. You know, I don't got to worry about hearing this, hearing that, and that just put like two different perspectives in my life. You know, so just having the best of both worlds, I feel like is a good thing for me because I know what it's like to be at the bottom. Not saying Coriopolis is the top, but it's a different view from the city from where I'm originally from. So like. That just made me, you know, adapt. And like you said, just seeing different people, seeing different the way they live and the way the people where I'm from live. It's like sometimes it could be two different things. So like this adjusting to both of those, like I said, I can't emphasize it enough. Like it really molded me to who I am.
Do you appreciate that type of diversity that you've been able to live in your life, though, knowing that you were raised in a city that was a different type of way, and then in your experiences, and then got to go somewhere else that you described as way more chill and lax, and you don't have to worry about everything? Do you think that's made you a more whole of a person because you have gotten to see different facets of life. Like someone like me, I grew up in a suburb outside of Chicago. I went to public schools with a lot of white people. I've lived in a bubble a lot of my life, but I'm now taking the time to try and learn about different backgrounds so I can appreciate where people have came from, and I can appreciate and understand the struggles that people went through. So they've had to work so much harder to get into where they are in life versus me, someone who's been handed a lot of things in my life.
Right. Well, I think, just like I said, like a lot, we don't get handed things, where I'm from, or in Greenway like that. And then when I moved out to Coriopolis, like I felt like a lot of people were privileged. And there's nothing against those guys because that's how they were raised. Like they just don't know. So I never looked at you like, oh, like you think you better than me or anything like that. I just, kind of took like how they viewed stuff and took how I like originally known for viewing things and just like combined them, and that just like I said, like a lot of people from where in Coriopolis, they don't know that I'm from like Greenway and like I had it rough because I don't need to show it, because when I got out there, I seen two different worlds. So it's like, now it's like, you can put them both together. Like, I'm not saying I need to be how I used to, or not how I used to, because I'm not saying I was away, but how I grew up. I'm not saying I need to be how that, but there's like my roots, they'll always be there. Now, like when I went to Coriopolis, it was like a new life and a new perspective on things. So now I could take both, and now I can apply both whenever I need it.
Yeah, which I think is so like important. And I think it's important for people who have grown up with privileges like me to also get into areas where I'm not comfortable and areas where people don't grow up with privileges to have a better idea of how the world works and how people have to work a lot harder for things than maybe I do. And so I think it's cool that you've been able to live in two different worlds and then grab experiences from both places to make you who you are today. And I think being able to see the entire world in a lot of different ways helps shapes people's views, opinions, and then in turn, you're able to share that with your son, you're able to share that with your girlfriend, you're able to share that with other people. So you don't have just, a one-sided view of things. You've been able to see things in a lot of different ways. So I just think that's super cool. And I think that the way that you came up from what you've explained, like, and how you've made it into the NFL, being a 7th round pick and getting on the field and playing in those 5 games, like, I love hearing those stories because I want to cheer for those type of people who have not been handed everything and have had to work so hard to get where they're currently at. And that's you. And a lot of the Instagram posts that I see from you and from players who maybe went undrafted or from players who grew up in tougher parts of the country. A lot of captions on Instagram are like, I made it out of the mud. Like, I'm came from the bottom, but now I'm working my way up. And I love that attitude. And I think it's so cool. Do you think because you have that attitude and because you do know a tougher life than someone like me knows, that you work for it even harder because you know where you came from?
Right. Yep. And I think that was the most important to me. Like, just knowing where I came from and knowing where I wanted to be. I think that's a lot of guys' downfall, where they don't know where they want to be and they don't stay focused on that straight line. And there's too many distractions, like where we come from. So they don't get to go where they want if they let those distractions get the best of them. And I feel like that's something that I didn't do because of my support system. For one, I had a great support system and they didn't let me, veer off that road. So, I feel like it's definitely very, very beneficial.
Do you hope to be a role model for people who are from the area that you grew up in?
Oh yeah, I do, most definitely. I'm I'm not where I'm not totally where I want to be, so I can't really do what I want to do for my community and stuff like that. But I promise those times will definitely come.
Yeah, and your community is going to be so happy when you do that you are able to make an impact and make a difference, because it has a lasting effect. And young boys who know your name and who know where you came from and see, wow, this guy's on the Buffalo Bills and he made it. I think it's so encouraging for younger kids who think I can't do this, I can't do that, to see people like you who, yes, you can do that. You did make it through that. So but looking at your draft story, I think that's also so really cool. Being drafted in the 7th round, I feel like some teams, depending on where you're walking into, right? You're walking into the Buffalo Bills, you're walking into the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got rosters that are pretty full and close to being set, and not too many holes that you have to fill, hopefully, because you're working to make it to the next level. You're working to make it to the Super Bowl. So being drafted in the 7th round, I'm sure you had thoughts of, how can I make this roster? How can I make an impact? How can I make sure that I don't fall through the cracks on this already really good team? So what do you remember being drafted in the 7th round? What do you remember from that day, from that experience? And I know another team possibly was going to scoop you up instead of the Buffalo Bills. So share that story too.
Oh yeah. Well, this like draft day, it's like long, anxious, you're hearing all these different things from different teams. So you're like, when am
And
I
on
going?
day 3, you have to wait for so long. It's not like you're coming off the clock, like first round, all this coverage, you're getting calls like, okay, you might be going here. It's like, all right, we've been doing this for a while now. I'm still
right. It's, like you said, you have to wait so long, and it gets to a point where you're like, I just want to know where I'm going to be at, I forget just being drafted. I just want to know what team I can come in and try to contribute the most. But it got late. It got real late. And, me and my agent were calling each other back and forth. And he called me and said a team was interested in signing you. And, I'm like, okay, well, we'll just see how the rest of it plays out, and then it got closer. It got later. And then, he called me and was like, well, this team was interested in signing you, but another team's offering more. So if you're okay, like we probably going to take that deal or whatever. And then like, as we're saying that, my name is going across the board, across the screen, like my family's all in there and everything. And then I forget it was my mom or my aunt's like, oh, dang, your name's right there. And I'm like, oh, like my heart dropped and everything. Like it was crazy. That's one moment that I'll never forget. For sure.
That is incredible. The fact that one of your family members was like, hey, that's you. You just got drafted. Get off the phone with your agent or with whatever team. Like you've been drafted by another team.
Yep.
But also being that 7th round pick, I mean, Brandon Beane and other teams, at least I know with our team, Brandon Beane is making selections in the 6th and 7th round that he believes have a chance to make this roster. He's not just drafting random dudes that are like, oh, we might as well get this player. It's like, no, you were drafted to this team for a reason. And to know that you have an opportunity to start on this team this year or make a difference on this team or be a role player. How cool is that to know that it doesn't matter where your name is called, you're still going to get a fair shot.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. I'm not sure, and that's why I'll give a lot of credit and I respect, Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott and all those guys so much, because I'm not sure if it's like that every other place, where the later round guys or the undrafted guys get the same equal opportunity as the early round guys. So, I give them I have a lot of respect for them in that aspect, and it's just a good feeling for me because. Like I said, you hear so many different things from coaches and stuff. So you'll think you're going earlier than you are, and then you don't. And it's like a wake up call. And then when you get there, it's like, okay, it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter. It's about what you do once you get there. So that was like a good feeling for me because all my life, I've had to work from the bottom. So me working from the bottom, it wasn't nothing new. It was like, okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again and let's see where it goes this time. So like you say, I was able to contribute on the field, and I'm looking forward to next season for sure.
I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing you as well. If you look at a lot of the mock drafts, which we track a lot of the mock drafts here, as we're getting closer to April 29th on Thursday when this whole thing kicks off. I mean, the Bills have a late first round pick, number 30, and all the analysts are saying cornerbacks pretty stacked this year. There's going to be a lot of good cornerbacks coming off the board. And we've been mocked quite a few cornerbacks, and late round quarterbacks in the NFL have done pretty good. Late first round quarterbacks I'm talking about, because Tre White, number 27, that's when he got picked, and look at what he's been able to do.
Right.
But you see us getting mocked cornerbacks, and then you see our fans clap back sometimes, and they're like, no, we've got Dane Jackson on the team. He's fine. We don't need a quarterback.
Right.
But what's your thought process on if the Bills draft a cornerback, wherever they do, of having more competition in that room every single year?
Oh, well, I mean, that's something I don't have no control over. You know, like I said, I try to worry about what I can control. And, you know, once we come in, it's all about how we compete on the field. You know, I love competition, and congrats to the guy whoever that they decide to choose. You know, I'm going to be the same man. You know, I'm not going to feel no type of way. You know, I know for a fact that we have to come in here and compete for the job. So, you know, it's just going to be, it's all love for me. You know, I just want to go out here and compete and see who can win a job. And if it's me, then fine. If it's not, then I got to work harder. So that's just my mindset.
Totally. And if there's one thing that Sean McDermott loves, he loves bringing in competition at every single position for training camp. That's going to be the case every single year, no matter how stacked a position is. There's always going to be some added competition, which I truly believe it ends up making you a better player, because you had to compete with XYZ or this type of player. But is there something that you wish you knew going into the NFL draft that you didn't know?
Honestly,
any advice to any guys who are going to be in the NFL draft in the next couple of weeks here?
Oh yeah, I would, for advice for, I like, especially guys who may be thinking they're going in the later rounds, like just don't get your hopes too high. You know, just stay level headed. You know, just stay calm. You know, like I said, you know, I didn't think I was going to go super high, but I didn't know I was going to go in the 7th round, and it was just like, okay, like once it happened, it was like, okay, like now the real work begins like after the draft. So in my opinion, you know, so I would say, you know, no matter where you go in the draft, don't look at it as like, oh man, like I'm not going to get a chance, or I'm not going to be able to do what, you know, people live up to my expectations or something, nothing like that. Like take it for what it is, and just put your head down and just keep grinding, man. I promise it'll all pay off.
The real work starts after the draft. That made me think of when we drafted Gabriel Davis, who he went lower than he thought he would go. I mean, the wide receiver class last year was stacked. It's stacked again this year, and he gets drafted by the Bills. And I think there was videos that he put on Twitter or went out on Twitter like 30 minutes after he got drafted, where he was outside running routes. And I'm like, that guy should be a Buffalo Bill. And I think that's what a lot of people think about so many people on this team, including yourself, because of the work ethic that you guys have. Once you come in this building, it's not like you have to be taught how to work hard. You already have it ingrained in your DNA, and that's the type of players who walk through this door.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely.
Dane, I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. It was so good to get to know you.
Thank you.
I cannot wait for this season. What are some of the excitements that you have for this 2021 season, knowing where the roster is at and knowing what you guys did last season?
I just want to, you know, just pick up where we left off. You know, just keep that energy flowing, keep that momentum flowing, and bring us all together like we did last year, and let's have one heck of a season again.
I love it. And I can't wait for you and the rookies to have like a normal year, so you understand what it's like. I mean, you guys couldn't do so many things that you could do in a normal year. I remember interviewing John Feliciano and Daryl Williams for this podcast a couple weeks ago. And Daryl was like, yeah, maybe we can finally hang out outside of like when we're at the facility together and get to know each other even more, outside of the facility. So I can't wait for that, because I think it's just going to be so cool. And like I said before, in a normal year, there were kids always running through the building at One Bills Drive. So I can't wait to see Dane Jr. and all the other kids, because it is like a true family at One Bills Drive, minus the pandemic. So
Yep. I can't wait either. I'm looking forward to it 100%.
Well, take the time to relax and chill because soon enough we are going to be back in training camp, and it'll be a grind to get to week 1. But I can't wait for it. I know you can't wait either. But thanks for taking a couple minutes, more than a couple minutes, to answer some questions that I had for you. I think Bills Mafia will love to listen to this and get to hear your story because I think it's a really inspiring one. And I love getting to interview players like yourself because I love the inspiration that people like you bring to the world and bring to the game of football.
Thank you, Maddy. I appreciate that a lot.
Awesome, Dane. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for tuning into this week's episode of Bills Pod Squad, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Keep tuning in every week as we release more episodes and get closer to the 2021 NFL Draft.